Beast of the Field, Part 4. Anthony sat on the sofa and looked at his brother. Joshua looked pale. He had killed again for his brother. It never got easier. He pretended to enjoy the killing now. Before it was kind of fun, and it made him feel closer to his brother, but now he felt shame and guilt. The man he killed was just a homeless man looking for a means to survive. And if that meant drugs to numb the pain, then so be it. Anthony was vicious, and had enjoyed it way too much. The look in his eyes now wasn't because he was hungry. It was pure pleasure from killing. There was still something wrong with his brother, and it was only getting worse, not better. The doctors had no idea what he had really been up to all these months. Joshua wanted to kill himself. He couldn't go on any longer. He went down to the cellar, pulled out a rope, and hung it over the rafters. Anthony was on his own now. He would not kill for his brother anymore. Joshua pulled out a stool and then wrapped a noose around his neck. Just as he was about to step off the stool into the netherworld, his phone buzzed. Looking down, he saw it was a text from Tracy. She was asking if he still wanted to meet for a drink. Tracy, who his brother had eyed. This would be his secret. He undid the noose and jumped down from the stool. He texted her back, a good time to pick her up, and then he was off. Tracy stood in the mirror, smiling to herself for having the guts to text Joshua. She thought he was cute, and he had been so persistent. Miguel would have never understood. He hated the locals in this college town. But there was something about Joshua, though. He had sincere eyes. Joshua was kind to her and wasn't like the typical locals. Tracy finished getting ready and stood in the balcony waiting for Joshua. She had not told anyone about her contacting Joshua. She had not figured out why she had done it either. Joshua left his house, sneaking out the back after a quick shower. Anthony was still too buzzed off his bloodbath to even notice where he was or what he was doing. When Joshua pulled up and Tracy saw him, she smiled big. He was elated by her smile and could not wait to spend time with her. Joshua eyed her up, looking at her standing there before him. Jean skirt, ruffled top, her hair swept to one side, and some green keds. He smirked at the keds and then helped Tracy get into the car. Tracy and Joshua drove to a restaurant just outside of town. Joshua was excited to finally have a bit of normalcy in his life. All this shit with his brother had really taken a toll on him. He pulled into the parking lot of the restaurant and he looked over at Tracy. She was pretty and kind. Her eyes were sweet, like her. She didn't have an evil bone in her body. Joshua shuddered at the thought that if she might find out what had really been going on when he was helping Anthony. "This place is nice. Have you been here before?" Tracy asked. "No, but I read a few reviews when you texted me. It sounds like they have really good appetizers." Tracy smiled, and Joshua walked her to the door of the restaurant, and they went in. The lighting was dim. The restaurant reminded Joshua of a place he had been once when he was in Chicago. It had the same lighting. That there before Anthony had turned. Those were happier times. Joshua liked being reminded of happier times. They were seated in the bar section, and so far, they were the only people there. The waiter gave them drink menus, and Tracy and Joshua laughed at the fact they had so many martinis to choose from. Once Tracy had eyed a Blue Moon martini she was ready to order. Joshua ordered a beer, and the look on Tracy's face was one of surprise. "I thought you'd order one of these fancy drinks." "Nah, they all look pretty good, but I'm more of an IP man myself, so, you know." "So tell me, how long have you been in this area? Did you grow up here?" "Oh, no. I'm only here for school, but I'm not far from here. I grew up in Manchester." "Oh." Joshua took a big gulp of his water. That's just up the road." "Yeah, I wanted to be close to my home in case family needed me. My mom's been sick on and off for a while, and my sister takes care of her, though." Joshua felt bad for Tracy's sister. If only he and Joshua had a third brother, maybe it would save him from being his brother's blood collector. Tracy and Joshua got their drinks and they spent an hour chatting. Joshua soon forgot about his life and began to genuinely have fun for the first time in 2 years. They ordered some food, and Joshua watched as they both gobbled down 3 separate appetizers. They both became full fast, and then it was time for their dinner to be over. Joshua drove Tracy home and promised they would see each other really soon. Joshua hated that the evening was ending. There was a dark sadness in him suddenly. There was a sense of sickly dread in his belly. He wanted to get home while Anthony was still in a good mood. Once he stopped being in a good mood, it would start all over again. Joshua got home and went inside the house. Anthony was not there. Where could his brother be? He found it strange he wasn't there, and he called out to him. Anthony was for sure gone. This was concerning to Joshua. Anthony was for sure gone. But if he was, does that mean that he might have followed Joshua? There was only one way to find out. Joshua picked up his phone and called his brother. Anthony didn't pick up. He noticed the smell first, suddenly. It wasn't bad, it smelled like perfume. What had Anthony done now? Joshua went upstairs to Anthony's room. He heard a woman's voice. She was laughing. Who the hell was in the bedroom with Anthony? Joshua hoped that he would not have another mess so soon after the last. Then he heard the woman moaning. There was a sound of something hitting the wall. Fuck, was he killing her? Joshua listened at the door, wondering if he could open it. But then he heard Anthony. Oh yeah, fuck, baby. Oh my god, he was fucking someone. Better than murder, I guess. But the sounds were too much for Joshua. He went downstairs to the family room and turned on the TV full blast. This was going to be a long night. Dr. Tom Hurst looked through a microscope. He grinned big and called for Victor. Yes, sir. I finished it. Now I just need to try it out. Can you lock me in this cage for about 24 hours? Oh, I suppose, sir. Should I bring you anything for your stay? A bottle of wine? Food? No, nothing. I need to be clear of mind and body. I will need my cure. Long, though. I need a log. Here it is. I can't turn into anything without my cures. I know there is one for beastly pleasures. That's the one I'll need for tomorrow. Victor obeyed, as he often did. Dr. Tom Hurst's experiments were often fueled by something. This time, a vampire. Victor looked to Dr. Tom Hurst, who was now only in his boxers. The old man's skin hung from his body. He had so many ideas. Why didn't he just make himself young again? Victor was thinking it when he noticed Dr. Tom Hurst was now laughing. What is it, sir? You're wondering why I don't turn myself into a Ken doll. Well, what fun would that be? I can be a beast instead. I can run fast as lightning, jump a full flight of stairs, jump out of a 2-story window and land perfectly fine on my feet. I'm a scientist, not a supermodel. Dr. Tom Hurst double-checked the cage that he was in to ensure it was secure. Then he pulled out a long needle and injected himself with a yellow solution. He sat back and waited. For hours, nothing happened. Victor waited it out in the kitchen, washing dishes and placing things that needed to be put away back in their places. Then something happened. Victor heard a crash. Then he heard a growl, and it sounded closer than the cage that Dr. Tom Hurst was locked himself in. He felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up, and then he heard a groan. Victor moved quickly to the upstairs, where he could lock himself behind a steel bedroom door. He had been used to Dr. Tom Hurst's experiments for years. This was a precaution. He never knew what strange and sometimes wonderful inventions would arise from the cellar laboratory. How on earth did he do it? There was a long howling, and through the peephole in the steel door, Victor saw the man-beast. Gray hair, fangs as long as his hands. The rapid height towering almost to the 12-foot ceilings. Then came the banging on the door. Victor made sure that the door had been latched and securely into place. It was unbreakable. Victor moved away from the door when he felt eyes on his through the peephole. "Doctor, it is me, Victor. Remember yourself. Please, dear God in heaven, remember yourself." Victor wiped the sweat from his brow and moved away from the door and closer to the window on the high-towered building. If he had to jump, then so be it. Farther from the high tower was Joshua, hoping his brother would get the beastly part of him out. Maybe he'd leave town. Joshua's appetite had wavered in recent months. Try as he might to be like his brother for his brother, it was never the final plan. He had to do so many horrifying things for his brother. Anthony was a dark and evil being now. The darkness had completely taken over. There was no more pretending what he was. Joshua hoped for an out. He hoped for a future with someone like Tracy. There was loud music playing. Anthony was in his element, fucking, eating, and having a grand time. Joshua got up and decided he'd go for a walk. All the noise was getting annoying. Outside, there was a full moon in the distance. He sat on the porch for a second, lighting a cigarette. He only smoked when he was really stressed. Lately, he'd been killing a pack a week. The chill in the air hit him harshly. He used his jacket to hold all the warmth inside of him. That's when he heard it. There was something in the bushes. Something was making a noise. He was 10 feet away from the forest of trees that lingered by the marsh and the forest of dense oaks. What was that? Probably a cat or a raccoon. And then he saw something else. Eyes. Piercing red eyes. They disappeared as quickly as they appeared. But there was something still there. Only Joshua couldn't see or hear it, but he felt it. He quickly went back into the house, cigarette in his mouth, and shut and locked the door. He took a deep breath and he felt a hand on his shoulder startling him out of his skin. "What's the matter, brother?" "There's something outside. I don't feel it's safe for us to go out there right now. Hogwash. I need to feed. Step aside." Joshua didn't stop him as he watched his brother leave. He shut the door behind him and a secret wish entered his mind. He locked the door behind his brother and went to clean up the mess he was sure awaiting him in his brother's room. Joshua got to the bedroom door, and there was a most unbearable sight. There were legs hanging from the ceiling. It was that woman. Her limbs hung above on a ceiling fan. There was blood everywhere. Her torso on the bed with sheets tied around her neck. Anthony had already fed. Why was he going out for more? Why was he going out alone? It wasn't like him to go alone. Joshua looked at the torso of the once put-together hooker and began to wrap her in the sheets. He had to clean the mess. He always had to clean the mess. Or else. Joshua held back his anger long enough to mop up the blood, put the victim in trash bags, and flip the mattress. He put new bedding on the bed, lit a candle to take away the smell of decay, and opened the window. He turned on the ceiling fan, and he screamed. To be continued.